Okay, so she was saying that she was afraid for her life. And she put an alert out that all of the trans, all of the alphabet community also needs to be afraid for their life. Right? And so, of course, I've been watching her and I'm like, okay, listen, even if you say that you're a female trapped in a male's body, right? And that you cannot handle not being able to express yourself as a female, why wouldn't you accept the hypnosis or the reprogramming that would allow you to actually be congruent with your genitals? I don't understand that. That's what I don't understand. Why the rejection? Like, no, you can't reprogram me to be, matching with my genitals. No, I don't accept it. I don't want it. Rabies shots for $10? What? I'm gonna have to remember that place. So, and honestly, like, say for instance, if I was doing something, right, that wasn't for my highest good, right? Like, say I'm depressed and I'm overeating, and they're like, listen, you can't be sitting up here eating like this. You're 500 pounds. You're literally killing yourself. You're immobile, and your body's starting to shut down from all of this weight, right? Why wouldn't you take the reprogramming necessary to stop eating so much that it's killing you? And if you're depressed, why wouldn't you take the reprogramming to stop you from being depressed? I mean, obviously you weren't able to do this on your own, right? And a lot of times we think, technology, okay, you can just get, some type of surgery, right? So even when people will get, wow, something's going on here. See? 1, 2, 3. Are they going to a party? There's some back there. See in the rearview mirror? Yeah, something's going on that way. Requiring a lot of police officers. See? Yeah. Anyway, I'm not going that way, thank God. But there are a lot of people who, had surgery, for weight loss, right? Only to find out that you know, it wasn't just a matter of just changing their bodies, but there's something that had to be reprogrammed in their head, right? Like, say they got liposuction and they did reconstruction surgery, and then, you know, a year or two later, you know, they're right back into the old habits that got them overweight in the first place. You know, where it may have involved low self-esteem or, you know, an undiagnosed depression. Okay? Yeah. So that's one of the things that, you know, we don't necessarily recognize, you know, right away, because, you know, we're just anxious for a quick and immediate change. Right? And so one of the things that I was looking at was that a lot of these, you know, people that have literally, you know, fell off and are broken in spirit to the point where they just pretty much giving up on life. You know, that they would be against being picked up, put into a mental institution for reprogramming. See, a lot of times they think that, you know, they're just going to get, you know, medicated or, you know, or whatever. Now, chances are that could happen. But another chance is that, you know, they could be picked up for intensive reprogramming, right? Because, you know, we have new technology, you know. We can pretty much see, you know, inside of people's, you know, skulls, you know, and sometimes even know what areas of our brain that has been damaged, stuff like that. You know, there's all kinds of different, you know, problems that people have, you know, because there have been people that have been dropped on their heads as children. There have been people that have been beaten, you know, with kicks to their head, or, you know, who knows what, right? So, yeah. Oh my God, there's a lot of people working. Rush hour traffic is in full effect. I need to get back to the house because my battery is getting low. So yeah, I am not against reprogramming. I'm not. Okay? I mean, even if I was, say, homeless. If I was homeless and they wanted to reprogram me to be happy being poor, right? Where I could basically live and just go to work, go to work and live in my small room and be satisfied with that. I mean, think about it. Think about it. What makes us unsatisfied is jealousy and envy. That's what makes us unsatisfied. Is when we will be jealous or envious because somebody has more than us. I used to like this area down here, the village. I used to want to live in this area because it looked so metropolitan to me. I like the fact that none of the apartments were more than 2 stories high. And the streets were lined with trees. Almost makes me want to go and buy a donut at Krispy Kremes. I ain't had a Krispy Kreme donut in I don't know how long. I wouldn't be able to even taste it really. So I mean, what's the use? What's the use? Right? What's the use? I know I went to sleep yesterday thinking about either, baking some cookies or baking a cake, and I don't know why. Because like I said, I really can't even taste the food. When I can't smell, you really can't taste the food. You'd be surprised how much the sense of smell affects, the satiation of food. And, that's why so many people love coffee because, we can smell the coffee, right? We can smell the tea. We can smell the spices in the food. We can smell the grease on the French fries. So yeah, from Memphis, Tennessee. So this is what happened also during the pandemic. During the pandemic, and people were able to work remotely, right? You were talking about people who, because of, the cost of living in their city was very high, right? So metroplexes like New York or California, and now Dallas. Dallas is getting on the radar because so many people have moved to Dallas. They have literally moved here to Dallas in waves, right? Hoping, wishing, and praying to be able to make it here because the cost of living is least, not as expensive as it is wherever they came from, and there's more opportunity. Okay. So yeah. But a lot of people, they can't make it here, right? There's a very, very strong emotional power here in North Dallas. And there's also a very strong mental power here in Dallas. And there's a very strong they have a lot of elementals here in Dallas. And I guess that's why I like it here. I do. They don't have no water. I mean, they have enough water, but they don't have like oceanfront. And that was the hardest thing for me to get over, was that I couldn't just go to the waterfront, and I had to find various ponds and lakes and stuff. Yeah, somebody's dog is just barking away. I am starting to get hungry. that last part of the video where I was caught off guard and I sneezed and had mucus coming out of my nose, and yeah, it just wasn't a good look. Wasn't a good look at all, because I wasn't even ready for it. It came so fast. So that was one of the things I was also thinking about was, okay, you know, because I've been spending a lot of money on toilet paper because of my drainage from my sinuses, or you know, yeah. And you know, and often I just wonder, you know, how much money I really would have spent if I would have had like tissue boxes. I probably would have spent a lot of money. But that was one of the things when I was running low on tissue, toilet paper, was, you know, do I need to, you know, like start using like washcloths, you know, as like handkerchiefs or something? I mean, because that's how severe and how much I'm actually, you know, blowing my nose. It's a lot. I'm not kidding. If I was to say how many rolls of toilet paper I've actually used, I will say probably about 3 rolls of toilet paper. Whole rolls. Getting back to what I was saying was, you come here and, you know, they decide, you know, whether or not, you know, they want you to stay or whether they want you to go. When they want you to go, or when somebody who has enough influence wants you to go, you don't get hired, right? And that's one of the things that, you know, I've been trying to figure out is, you know, just like they have the ability to pull up your medical history, right? They have that ability. This is why I don't understand when we get scrutinized by any kind of local business that, you know, does not have access to, you know, HIPAA records, right? And definitely there should not be any governmental agencies that doesn't have access to like your medical records, right? And one of the things that kind of tripped me out was when she said, well, no, you know, we can send you a release of information. Right? And this is weird to me because you're a government agency. You have access. Right? So why aren't they sending a release of medical information when somebody is applying for disability? I mean, that should be part of the application. All this, we expect you to, round this up, round that up, this, that, and the third. What? Just like if you're trying to get assistance, they know, because employers are supposed to report quarterly, their expenses and their taxes are supposed to be, recorded quarterly. They know when, somebody is employed. Now, granted, there's not a lot that we can do when people are, like breaking the law and saying, well, sometimes we just have to work underneath the table, get paid underneath the table. Like, why? Why would you ever need to be working underneath the table? Right? Working underneath the table is cheating. It's cheating the system. Right? Just like employing illegal immigrants. Claiming that, they're employed, but they're not paying taxes. How are they paying taxes and they don't have a social security number? Right? This is the gaslighting. The gaslighting that, people will tell you. They're not paying Social Security because they don't have a Social Security number. They don't have a Social Security number because they're not legally entering our country. And you cannot do this in other countries where, you would even get this kind of leniency. You think in another country all they're going to do is deport you? Huh? They're going to deport you after they send you to prison. Then they'll deport your ass. Because they enjoy seeing you suffer for having, disrespected the laws of their land. One of the things that kind of tripped me out was when this guy was coming on and saying this video that got reposted by another YouTuber content creator, and he was saying that, don't worry, this was a guy, right? Don't worry about your food stamps, they're not gonna let you starve, yay, right? And it's like, this is a man, right? And they're like, yeah, it's gonna be delayed, but don't worry, you're still gonna get it, And it was just tripping me out that they still want the government, which is people that we don't know who are taxpayers to feed these people, right? First of all, when you have so many kids that you can't even afford to feed your kids, and then you go to the state and say, hey, yeah, I was getting it on and on and on and on, and every time, we had a child, but I can't feed them. I mean, where's the common sense? Right? And even when they started, trying to put restrictions to discourage people from, staying on welfare, they were like saying, the child has to be under the age of 2. Well, they didn't think it was any crime to have a kid every 2 years. Okay. Now, granted, the women were just following the instructions of these men, right? He say, lay down, open up, I'm getting ready to make a deposit here. She does it. Period. I've seen situations where, women, had a domestic dispute issue because, she was trying to, I don't know, not have sex during Ramadan, or not have sex during her period, or not have sex because she just had a baby or just had a hysterectomy. And I'm telling you, these men out here are vicious. They're like, huh. You ain't gonna deny them anything at any time, even if it costs you your life, your health. And then they don't want to let the women go. When the women are like, fuck this shit. Fuck this shit. This is not love. So, I've been ranting and raving. And I can say I feel pretty good now that I've rant and raved. Because I've been quiet. Couldn't breathe and talk at the same time. But I'm breathing a little bit now. So, I don't know. I'm going to have to try to figure out some way to find employment. And I'm just so tired of these employment services. They're charging the employers, $35, to get you employed at their location, so that you only get like $15 or $16. It's like, what the hell? And that's something that I've noticed, every time I go online, that, somebody out there is getting paid to be a mediator to be in between you and the employer. I'm so sick and tired of that. Right? Where you have to get a job through in employment services for what? For what? You know, I mean, it's one thing to say, well, you know, they go through the background check and this, that, and the third. Okay, so let that be your fucking HR department. Do the background check. You know. And that's how they had got a lot of people into employment situations, because they didn't have to have the proper paperwork. Right? That was the responsibility of the employment agency. They just sent in a body to go and do the work. Right? You know, they don't know if the driver's license is correct, if the social security, you know, matches the description of the person or anything like that. It's just all a bunch of, you know, it's all a smokescreen that these men do, you know, to get away with the bullshit that they've been getting away with for so long that they think it's okay to do. And granted, yes, there are a lot more women who are also, you know, learning how to be criminals, because they sometimes feel like they have to be a criminal in order to live in this society, because they think that this society